Craggy rocks reach up around you, seeming to touch a steel-gray sky. Tawny grass sways in the stiff wind as you slowly make your way up a thin trail that winds along a ridge. Behind you, you hear the footfall of your companions. You turn to look at them and realize that it's starting to rain. Sideways. Some would call it misery, but you call it bracing. To your left, you look down the slope and your heart skips a beat. There in the glen, you spy the thing you've been seeking all day. A set of huge, majestic antlers bobbing up and down as their owner nibbles on some grass. You signal your companions and immediately crouch down in silence. This is the moment you've been waiting for. But will you bring down this monarch of the glen? Welcome to the Highlands, a vast open wilderness ruled by weather that can flip in a moment's notice, going from sunny to torrential rainstorm in just a few seconds. It's the perfect environment for the red stag and many other breeds of deer that have made this rugged place their home, growing to vast sizes. Their only threat? The deerstalkers. Deerstalkers are professional hunters and guides who track deer during the day up in the Highland Mountains, sometimes by foot, where ponies or vehicles are basically unable to go. This profession goes back many centuries. It's basically synonymous with Scotland. Highland deerstalking shares some similarities with deer hunting in the United States, but really possesses a few qualities that make it an inherently unique experience. As a sport, deerstalking evolved out of essential hunting practices of the old Highlanders. The skills that basically netted them venison for the winter, hide for making leather goods, and antler for crafting. Hunting in the hills in the manner that we see today really evolved in the 19th century when huge hunting estates were mapped out across the Highlands, many owned by wealthy Englishmen. Thus, local hunters found work as guides and gamekeepers, gillies, establishing new traditions of their own as they catered to their masters and guests. For instance, this is why we have so many so-called estate tweeds now. These unique patterns are worn only by employees of a given estate as an identifier. As masters of the art of the hunt, Highland gamekeepers were highly respected and even romanticized, heroes of living close to nature, symbolic of strength, independence, and manliness. A few became famous, in fact, like John Brown, who became the personal attendant of Queen Victoria after serving as a gillie to Prince Albert. Now, as the name implies, deer stalking or game stalking is first and foremost about following and seeking out the deer. With the Highlands being filled with vast open spaces, hunters are required to be constantly on the move, staying out of the line of sight and scent of their quarry. That's basically not at all like sitting in a tree stand for hours in North America. Knowing the terrain, therefore, is essential, as is bringing the proper gear and wearing the right clothes for the elements. It's no wonder that this is the land of tweeds. This durable yet beautiful cloth is the perfect fit and also steeped in tradition. Tweeds and a waterproof are basically standard uniform even today. For equipment, stalkers carry a very special rifle. Itself a work of art and engineering, the deerstalking gun has actually changed very little since the 1900s. Other essentials include a spyglass or binoculars and a sort of hiking staff called a stalking stick or shooting stick. So, in addition to helping you traverse the rocks, this stick is used to steady the rifle or spyglass when you think you're going to take a shot. Of course, as often as not, you're going to be lying prone in the heather when you slowly squeeze that trigger. A good stalker is intimately familiar with the area he stalks. He knows when and where the deer like to graze. In fact, good stalkers will be able to anticipate a deer's movements depending on just the weather. Now, traditionally, deerstalkers did have some help, and this came mainly in the form of the deerhound, a special breed of sighthound, valued as a companion as well as a vital aid. These highly trained hunting dogs would track scents and help chase down wounded deer. Today, laws prohibit the use of these hunting dogs, so now the stalker's own skills and mental map are more important than ever. Another member of the deerstalker's party used to be the Highland pony, used to carry supplies on the way up and fresh kills on the way home to the hunting lodge. They were ridden by so-called pony boys, whose basic purpose was to care for the animals as well as the cargo. Highland ponies, or garrons, have to be specially trained to work with the stalkers. They're acclimatized to the Highland terrain at a very early age. Trainers accustom the ponies to carrying the weight of a deer by loading them with bags of sand. Once a Highland pony is trained, it's fitted with a specialty saddle also. Some of these saddles are at least 100 years old and still being used today. As it happens, both Highland ponies and pony boys are becoming increasingly rare in modern times. It's basically just a lot easier to use vehicles to carry everything. Once only the pastime of the elite, deer stalking for sport is now a big tourist industry, with avid hunters coming from all over the world to partake in the chase. In fact, this is how a lot of those estates now remain solvent. As a sport and a business, gamekeeping has also become more regulated, keeping pace with modern environmental concerns. For instance, back in 1959, an act was passed requiring estates to report all the deer killed on their grounds. They're also expected to annually cull the deer population on their lands to prevent overpopulation. Meanwhile, modern regulations have established seasons to stalk and restrictions on what size, age, and gender of deer you're allowed to take. Interestingly, this basically actually adds to the harshness and the challenge of stalking. Sometimes stalkers can go days without seeing deer only to find a few, and none of them can be shot legally. Deer stalking itself usually requires at least 2 people. Most estates will have a head gamekeeper, an estate stalker who is in charge of all the rest of the staff, maintaining everything, and enforcing the rules for guests. They're also in charge of meeting the quota of deer that needs to be culled each year. So, if you're interested in joining these guys, there are a few things to note beforehand. First off, while no one owns the deer, people obviously own the estates that these deer call their home. Estates will allow people to join in hunts, either by purchasing a hunting tour package or by paying for a membership to the estate's hunting club. You'll find a few different options online if you look. But remember, this is not like hopping on a bus to go see Stirling Castle. This is athletic. Deer stalking requires people to be in really good shape. It's all about climbing and crawling your way through the Highlands. Skilled deer stalkers note they'll be out all day without seeing a single deer, or at least one that can be shot. So patience and a love of the landscape itself is crucial. You can't deny, though, that stalking takes you to some really beautiful views. And speaking of views, yes, you can also opt to take a camera instead of a rifle on a hunt. Photo safaris are becoming increasingly popular, and frankly, they're much easier to prepare for. So, thinking long term, you might want to consider doing a photo expedition one year to get a taste, and then a full hunting trip later on. So what do you think? Does this sound like an amazing experience, getting close to nature and feeling that blood coursing through your veins as you close in on your prey? Or do you just want to go and take some pictures of some deer? Either way, tell us in the comments. If you like the comment, of course, we'd appreciate it if you just subscribe and ring the bell and all that good stuff. If you want to know more about travel in Scotland, be sure to check these videos out, which we did some time ago. Thanks.